The Galactic Council had laughed at us. The moment humanity made its presence known to the wider universe, the so-called higher species of the cosmos dismissed us as irrelevant. They saw our warships as primitive, our technology as outdated, and our military strategies as laughable. Weak, they called us. Obsolete, unfit for war. The Zelvar Imperium, a race of cold-blooded conquerors, had invaded human space without hesitation. They barely even acknowledged the treaty violations. After all, the Galactic Council had ruled that humanity was unworthy of a seat among them. Who would come to our aid? No one. And so the Zelvar war fleets, mighty and terrible, arrived at the edges of the Sol system. Their ships were sleek, towering structures of energy and organic metal, weapons that could rip apart moons and reduce entire planets to dust. Humanity, in comparison, had steel-plated warships with railguns, missiles, and nuclear payloads, technology that was centuries behind the Zelvar. When the first battle began, the Council broadcasted it across the galaxy. Billions watched, expecting the swift annihilation of humanity's pathetic navy. But they forgot one thing. The species that clawed its way to the top of a death world like Earth would never bow so easily. The battle for Mars was supposed to be a massacre. The Zelvar deployed their main fleet, a force that had crushed a dozen lesser species before us. Their dreadnoughts, massive biomechanical monstrosities, released waves of plasma that melted through everything in their path. Admiral Cole stood aboard the UNS Valkyrie, the flagship of humanity's battered fleet. His officers were grim-faced, hands gripping consoles as the battle raged. Every single screen showed destruction, human ships bursting into flame, Zelvar vessels cutting through our forces like razors through flesh. "This is it, sir," his lieutenant said quietly. "They outmatch us in every way." Cole didn't respond. He just stared at the tactical readout. A slow smile spread across his face. "Good," he murmured. "Let them think they've won." The Galactic Council's mistake wasn't underestimating our ships. It was underestimating our minds. Humanity didn't fight like the others. We didn't rely on perfect formations or preordained strategies. We fought dirty. We fought like creatures that had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war on a planet that tried to kill us every day. The Zelvar thought they were dealing with another obedient, logical, rule-following species. Instead, they got trickery, ambushes, suicide runs, psychological warfare. The Valkyrie's main batteries lit up as human warships rammed into Zelvar capital ships, detonating nuclear payloads at point-blank range. The Imperium's shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not high-speed chunks of metal slamming into them like meteorites. Zelvar ships that relied on centralized AI control suddenly found themselves blinded as human hackers unleashed viruses into their systems, scrambling their communications, turning their formations into chaos. The battle shifted. Zelvar warlords screamed into their comms, demanding answers. How? How is this happening? The answer was simple. They had called our warships useless. Now, they were rewriting their history books. We took that battle. Then we took another. And another. For the first time in recorded history, the Zelvar retreated. And the Galactic Council? They could only watch in horror as humanity, once dismissed as insignificant, rewrote the rules of war itself. And we were just getting started. The Zelvar Imperium did not take humiliation lightly. After the Battle of Mars, their retreat was temporary. A pause, not a defeat. Humanity had won a battle, but the war was far from over. The Galactic Council, once indifferent, now watched with morbid fascination. Could a species they had written off truly stand against an empire that had crushed countless civilizations? Admiral Cole knew what was coming next. He stood in the dimly lit command center of the UNS Valkyrie, eyes locked onto the holographic display. Reports streamed in from every corner of human space. The Zelvar were amassing a vengeance fleet, 10 times the size of the force that had attacked Mars. Their pride was wounded, and they would stop at nothing to erase their embarrassment. Cole exhaled slowly. He had expected this. Hell, he had counted on it. Sir, latest scans confirm a massive Zelvar fleet assembling in the Ymir system, his tactical officer reported. They're not just coming to fight us, sir. They're coming to burn us off the map. The bridge was silent. No one doubted the truth. This wasn't just another skirmish. This was extinction protocol. Cole straightened. His voice, when it came, was calm. Then we do what we do best. We teach them a lesson they won't forget. The Zelvar fleet emerged in Sol space 3 weeks later. It was a show of force unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Hundreds of warships, gleaming obsidian behemoths, surrounded by thousands of fighter swarms. Their flagship, the Zalvex, was the size of a small moon. It had one purpose: to send a message to every species watching. The Zelvar do not lose. And yet, when they arrived, something was wrong. There was no human fleet waiting in proper battle formations, no defensive lines drawn, no orbital stations bristling with weapons, just silence. A trap? The Zelvar hesitated. Their warlords barked orders, scanning, searching, demanding to know where the enemy was. And then, the first ship exploded. Not a human ship, a Zelvar destroyer, then another, then 5 more at once. Their own vessels were detonating from within. Admiral Cole watched from the bridge of the UNS Valkyrie, arms crossed as the Zelvar fleet descended into chaos. His fleet still remained out of range, hidden beyond the gas giants, but the trap was already in motion. You wanted to play gods, he muttered under his breath, watching the carnage unfold. Welcome to hell. The Zelvar had made the same mistake again. They thought war was about firepower, about superior ships and overwhelming numbers. But humans didn't fight fair. For weeks before the Zelvar even arrived, hundreds of stealth drones had infiltrated their fleet, undetectable to their scanners, too small to be noticed. Each one carried a single mission: deliver a payload. Viruses, EMP charges, remote-triggered explosives. Now, at the exact moment the Zelvar thought they had won, their own ships were ripping themselves apart. AI systems fried. Shields flickered and collapsed. Entire capital ships drifted dead in space as their reactors failed. And then humanity's fleet emerged, not in one formation, but from all sides. Cole raised his hand. All ships, he ordered. Fire at will. Hell rained down upon the Imperium. Missiles screamed through the void, targeting the exposed underbellies of Zelvar warships. Railguns fired at close range, tearing through hulls with relentless force. Human ships weaved through the wreckage, fighting in ways that no AI-controlled fleet could predict. The Galactic Council watched in disbelief as the impossible unfolded before their eyes. The Zelvar should have won, but instead, their mighty vengeance fleet, an armada built to erase humanity, was burning. And Admiral Cole smiled, because history was being rewritten. The Zelvar fleet, once a symbol of absolute power, was in ruins. Debris drifted across the void. The wreckage of once mighty warships now reduced to twisted metal. Human vessels moved like predators through the battlefield, finishing off any remaining Zelvar ships that still clung to life. Admiral Cole stood on the bridge of the UNS Valkyrie, his expression unreadable as he surveyed the destruction. "They never saw it coming," his lieutenant whispered. "They never do," Cole replied. But he knew better than to celebrate too soon. The Zelvar Imperium was massive. The fleet they had just destroyed, though formidable, was just a fraction of their full strength. The Imperium would not stop. If anything, they would return angrier. And humanity had just painted a target on its back. The Galactic Council was in shock. For centuries, they had watched as species after species fell before the Zelvar war machine. None had ever mounted a successful resistance, let alone humiliated the Imperium in open battle. Now the impossible had happened. Humanity, a species they had mocked, had rewritten the rules of war. Council chambers erupted in chaos. Some species saw an opportunity. If the Zelvar weren't invincible, maybe their own rebellions could succeed. Others saw a threat. If humans could do this to the Zelvar, what else were they capable of? The question rippled through the galaxy like a shockwave. What happens when you push a species too far? The answer came 3 days later. A transmission from the Zelvar homeworld, broadcasted across the entire galaxy. A figure stood in the center of the screen. High Imperator Valzareth, ruler of the Zelvar Imperium. His golden exoskeleton gleamed under the artificial lights of the Imperial war chamber. His slitted reptilian eyes burned with fury. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding metal. Humanity has made a grave mistake. A silence stretched across the cosmos. Every species listened. You believe yourselves clever. You believe your pathetic victories mean something. His mandibles clicked in barely contained rage. We will show you what true annihilation looks like. The transmission cut out. The message was clear. The full force of the Zelvar Imperium was coming, and this time there would be no retreat. Cole sat in the war room aboard the UNS Valkyrie, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. Reports flooded in, Zelvar fleets mobilizing, colonies evacuating, defenses being fortified. A storm was coming. The Zelvar weren't sending a fleet this time. They were sending everything. "This is it," murmured General Vasquez, leader of Earth's planetary defenses. "If we don't stop them here—" Cole nodded. "Then we never will." The room fell silent. Every officer in the chamber understood the weight of those words. Humanity had shaken the galaxy. Now they had to survive it. The final battle was set. The Zelvar Imperium had committed billions of soldiers, thousands of warships, and every resource they had to one purpose: wipe humanity from existence. But humanity? They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to prove, once and for all, that they were not to be underestimated. Admiral Cole stood before his fleet. His voice carried across every human ship, every soldier, every last defender of Earth. They called us weak. He let the words hang in the air. They called us obsolete. He took a breath. They were wrong. Silence. Then, a roar. Across every human battleship, every orbital station, every last outpost, a single chant rose like thunder. For Earth! The battle for humanity's future had begun. The Zelvar Imperium did not hold back. They came like an unstoppable wave, a fleet so massive it blotted out the stars. Sensors aboard the UNS Valkyrie struggled to calculate the sheer number of enemy ships. Thousands upon thousands of war vessels, dreadnoughts, and planetary siege engines burned toward Sol space, their formation stretching across the void like a moving apocalypse. This was not a battle. This was extermination. And yet, Admiral Cole smiled. The Zelvar thought they had seen everything humanity had to offer. They were wrong. Earth's final defense wasn't built on superior technology or firepower. It was built on strategy, ingenuity, and the sheer stubborn defiance of a species that refused to die. Every human warship was positioned for maximum chaos, not in rigid formations, but in a fluid, ever-shifting web of ambush points, false retreats, and trap zones. Every asteroid field had been mined with nuclear payloads. Every gas giant hid stealthed battleships, waiting to strike. And Earth itself? It wasn't a target. It was a fortress. The battle began with a deception. As the Zelvar fleet closed in, they detected what seemed like a desperate human retreat. Dozens of warships pulling back, leaving Earth seemingly undefended. The Zelvar War Council took the bait. High Imperator Valzareth, eager to claim victory, ordered a full advance. Their capital ships surged forward, their formations stretching thin as they rushed to claim Earth before the humans could mount a counterattack. And that's when the trap sprang shut. The minefields ignited first. Nuclear detonations rippled through the Zelvar vanguard, tearing apart hundreds of ships before they even reached combat range. Shielding technology designed for energy weapons was worthless against the sheer brute force of kinetic hellfire. The gas giants erupted next. Hidden human warships emerged from Jupiter and Saturn's orbits, launching EMP strikes that blinded the Zelvar's AI-reliant systems. Communications broke down. Their carefully planned battle formations collapsed into confusion. And then, humanity struck with everything they had: railguns, missiles, bombardments from orbital platforms, even hacked Zelvar warships turned against their own fleet. The unstoppable Zelvar armada. It was burning, but the Imperium was still vastly larger. Even with all their losses, they kept coming. Zelvar warlords abandoned strategy, ordering their ships to fire blindly, to ram human vessels, to tear Earth apart piece by piece. Cole watched as the UNS Valkyrie shuddered under enemy fire. Hull breaches formed. Officers screamed into comms. Ships on both sides detonated in fiery destruction. For a moment, it seemed like the Zelvar's sheer numbers might win after all, and then Earth itself fired back. The planetary railgun had been humanity's best-kept secret. Built beneath the Rocky Mountains, powered by a fusion core the size of a city, it was a monstrosity designed to launch a single tungsten round at relativistic speeds. A single shot could crack a moon in half, and it was aimed directly at the Zelvar flagship. High Imperator Valzareth saw it too late. A lance of fire erupted from Earth's surface. The railgun's projectile, traveling at near-light speed, smashed into the Zelvar capital ship. It didn't just pierce the flagship, it tore it in half. The Zalvex, once the pride of the Zelvar Imperium, was reduced to floating debris in an instant, and the moment their ruler died, the Zelvar broke. The retreat was chaos. Zelvar ships, once so confident in their superiority, fled in every direction. Some were hunted down and destroyed. Others simply ran, abandoning the war entirely. The mighty Zelvar Imperium, the unstoppable force that had ruled the galaxy for centuries, had been defeated by humans. The species they had called weak, the species they had mocked, the species that had just rewritten history. The aftermath was quiet. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the Zelvar Imperium sued for peace. Their broken fleet limped home. Their conquered worlds rose in rebellion. And the Galactic Council? They watched in stunned silence. Humanity was no longer a minor race. They were a power. And Admiral Cole? He stood on the bridge of the UNS Valkyrie, staring out into the endless void. A single thought ran through his mind. They'll never underestimate us again.